What's up, salutations, nerds and nerdettes? Welcome back to Two Gun Pixie's Legendary Gaming. I'm Big Johnny G, your host, and welcome back all the subscribers, all our friends out there. Thank you very much. Here we got another episode of How to Play. I'm your host, Big Johnny G, as I said, and today we got Fate of Akalon, Tribes by Foursight Games. This is a game that I got to review back in August, I believe it was. And me and the 20-Sided Warriors really like this game. And me personally, I'm usually not that big of a fan of combat card games, but this definitely caught my attention. So I wanted to do a how-to play. It's a really easy game. I think once people see how to play, it might add to the excitement of this game, all right? So the basic setup of Fate of Akalon is that 14 years ago, this searing wind tore through the lands and destroyed pretty much all the habitable areas. So the surviving tribes have banded together in their own little groups, and they're doing their best to eke out a living and to keep from going extinct. And in the base game, Tribes comes with a card deck for 4 different tribes. You got the elves, you got the dwarves, you got the orcs, and you have the undead. Today's game, real quick, we're going to be going through the dwarves. Yep, the dwarves. And we'll be showing against the elves. Now, this isn't a whole playthrough. This is just a how-to play, but these are the 2 tribe decks that I picked out for this how-to play. The last time I played, actually, I played the undead. I totally messed that up. That was my own fault. I didn't manipulate the cemetery well enough. You'll see what I'm talking about in a moment. So now, this all the game comes with, by the way, really. It comes with the 4 decks. Here's the other 2. And it comes with the rule book. And you don't need anything else. You don't need anything. You don't need chits or tokens or counters. This is really all you need. It definitely is a card combat game. So it starts off after both teams shuffle, and before you draw any cards. Each person obviously is going to pick one of the 4 tribes. You're going to shuffle your deck, and before you draw, you have to determine who's going to be the first player, and that's determined one time only in this game, and that's in what's called a skirmish. The skirmish is extremely simple. Each player will pick the top card from their deck and put it in the battleground. The battleground is the center area in between the 2 players. So both players will take a card and they'll put it down at the battleground. Now at this point, during a skirmish, the only thing that matters are the numbers on the top. In this case, the dwarf tunneler is a 3, while the elf commander is a 6. Highest number wins. That's all that matters. Don't worry about anything else for the skirmish. So in this case, what's going to happen is the dwarf goes into what's called the cemetery. The cemetery is off to the side. He's dead. The elf commander, he's going to go right off to his side here in just a discard pile. The way the game is set up, you have the discard pile, you have a cemetery, and you have an out-of-play area. Some of the cards, when you play them, will direct you to go to the out-of-play area. Thematically, I've always sort of thought of that as mercenaries or someone that just took themselves out of battle. Maybe they had enough of the fight and they semi-retired, or they're a mercenary, they were paid off one time, or whatever. That's my thematic envisionment of it. So they're out. Now, the reason for this is you only ever get to reshuffle your discard pile. So when you run out of all your cards, whatever is here is not going to be back in your hand again. So now, as I said earlier when I was playing the undead deck, they're very good at manipulating their cemetery, and that's what I messed up on. I think I could have won the game if I had a little bit better foresight on that. Anyway, so this is how it's going to be set up during the game. The battlefield's going to be out here. The cards are always going to be played right to the battlefield. Now, in the normal fights, what's going to happen is the one and the other will play a card, and you will not only examine the points on the card, but you're going to examine what the cards say. Now, very important to this game is they're not played at the same time. The attacker, now you just saw the skirmish, and in the skirmish, the elves won. So the elves get to decide for the first fight going in, do they want to be the attackers or the defenders? Let's say they were the attackers. They would have played their card first. Well, they would have drawn. They would have drawn 5 cards into their hand. Don't show the other player. Don't show the other player at all. Each player draws 5 cards after the skirmish. Now, during the fight, the highest number is going to win the fight. Generally, you're only going to be able to play 1 card unless you have text that says otherwise. So, looking at this, he might not want to, or she might not want to use her big points yet. Now, there's a very important reason for that. As you're playing your cards to the battlefield turn after turn, you're not redrawing. You're not redrawing. Redraw doesn't happen until you have no cards left in your hand. That is the point that you redraw. So you have to manage the points in your hand because the attacker never knows what the defender is going to throw down. So maybe they don't want to throw the 5 down right away. Also depends on what is on the text of these cards. Sylvan Attendant, if you are defeated, you may discard back to your hand. That's 3 points. The Elf Summoner, play the top card of your deck. So this card's always going to bring in another card, but you don't know what that card is going to be. The Master Swordsman, you may discard a card from your hand. If you do, you get to draw 1 back. So there's a card here you really don't think you're going to be using. This will be a good card to use, and it's 5 points for the fight. The Seer, only worth 1 point during the fight, but he lets you look at the top card of your deck, return it to the top of your deck, or to discard it. So he lets you manipulate your deck. And there was another summoner there. So maybe in this case, let's say the elf player, the attacker, decides they're going to play the summoner. So they play the summoner first before I, the defender, get to do anything. So with that, they also get to play the top card of their deck into the battlefield, which in this case is a Sylvan Attendant. If defeated, you may discard back into your hand. So that's their battle right there. From the 5 from my deck, I would look at this. I'll show you my hand here so you can see. Shield, crossbow, armor, a war priest, and enchanted. So basically, I have to beat 5 points, because if it's a tie, then my opponent, who's currently the attacker, continues to be the attacker in the next round. So I'm going to want to beat that 5. I could do that. Can I? Can I? Can I? I believe, given a quick look, since this is just a how-to, offhand, what I would play is my War Priest. My War Priest is worth 5, which would mean a tie. However, the text on the card says defense in bold, which means this only takes effect if it is being played by the player on the defensive, which I am. Choose an opponent. In this case, there's only one, although this game can be played 3 and 4 players. It's primarily a 2-player game. So choose a player. You may have that player discard their battlefield cards and play again. So there goes the 5 points in the discard pile. Having to play again. I think I would be a little mad if I was the Elven player. So I would do this just to go for the tie. So the dwarf still loses. The dwarf card then has to go into the cemetery. And the Master Swordsman card says you may discard a card from your hand. If so, draw a card. In this case, taking a quick look, the Elven player is actually happy with those cards. This is in the cemetery. I am now down to 4 cards. Well, the Elf player is at 3. The Elf player tied 5-5, which is enough to continue the momentum as attacker. So this is how the game is going to go. Now, at this point in the game, you're going to look at your cemetery. Before the next hand is played, before the next battle, is played, you're going to look at your cemetery. And the game ends at 30 points. That's what the rulebook suggests, and it's a good system. We've played to that. It's not too long. It averages about 30 to 45 minutes, closer to 45 the first few times you play. But you can manage the time of the game by sliding that. If you guys decide that you want a shorter game, 20 minutes, or a longer game, 40 minutes, you get the idea. So at the end of every battle, you're going to add up. As soon as one player has 30 points in their cemetery, the game is over. And then the player with the least points in their cemetery is the winner. That's it. It's a very simple game. Has a very good summary on the back to follow. I bunched up a lot of this because it's divided out into a very segmented way. Doesn't look like I went through seven parts of it, but I did, because that's how easy and fast it flows. And like I said, you keep playing until you have no cards in your hand, at which point then you redraw. So you do have to have a bit of strategy in how you're going to play them. You're going to have to plan out. And, since you don't know what the other player has, that really throws everything in the loop. But yeah, so that's it. You have a cemetery pile, you're going to have a discard pile, and you're going to have an out-of-play pile. You're going to have your hand. Everything goes to the battlefield. The attacker plays first. The defender then gets to play a card. Highest number wins. Always remember to read the text, because that's going to play a very big part in strategy and tactics and whether you win or lose the game. That's it. Fate of Akalon. Foursight Games. How to play. Big Johnny G. Two Gun Pixie. We hope you enjoyed. Thank you for subscribing. Have a great day. I'm out of here.